Uh, is my connection okay?
Yeah, solid.
All right. My Wi-Fi has been kind of whack the last week, bro. I don't know what's going on.
You got to get that hardwire connection, bro. You got to run that
Dude,
cable all the way
I think I might need to start doing that.
run it all the way from the living room and
I
just get
wonder
it
if
done.
I could do it from my I have like the little remember I got the like the what's the Wi-Fi adapter, the mesh network.
Yeah, you
I
could
have
do
that
it
in
with
my room now. Okay, I might need to do that, bro.
yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, that could work.
Well, man, we're always talking about football on this show, but we got a lot to talk about this week, and it's all about the NBA, man. As you can tell, as a Laker fan, I'm super excited. It's Saturday night, huge, 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 shocking, just unbelievable news. The NBA trade deadline is Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Already, we've seen two big trades, and the big blockbuster one started off on Saturday night. It's one of the biggest trades in NBA history, one of the biggest trades in sports history, and you can make the case it's the biggest trade of all time. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say that at this point. But we're going to break down the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade that sends Doncic to the Lakers and Davis to the Mavs. The Sacramento Kings traded De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, and we're going to get into all the rumors surrounding what the Warriors are looking at. Is there a possible Kevin Durant reunion in the works? Jimmy Butler, is he going to get traded? Bradley Beal, is he going to get traded? We got so much to get into, man. But I want to start by saying everyone who's tuned in right now, welcome to the deep dive. I'm Sandeep Chandok. This is my co-host, Amandeep Kuner. And yeah, typically we've been talking about NFL for the last couple months, but NBA trade deadline is on Thursday. And this is tuning up to be a spicy, spicy NBA trade deadline. So we're going to start with what the biggest trade, the one that still has people shook a few days later. Luka Doncic traded to the Los Angeles Lakers on Saturday night for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first round pick. Cooner, on Saturday night, you were over at my place. I was having a little gathering for my birthday. We're playing a game. There's a bunch of us just in a circle, having a good time. My phone starts blowing up, and I don't know what's going on. I see the tweet from Shams. Lakers are getting Luka Doncic in exchange for Anthony Davis. I tell you guys about it. I think it's fake. Everyone thinks it's fake because you didn't see any rumors about this. You would never think in a million years that Luka Doncic was going to get traded, right? We're talking about a generational star, a 25-year-old, five-time All-NBA player, a guy who just led his team to the finals, right? You never in a million years think this guy's going to get traded. Then Shams follows up with the tweet, yes, this is real. Here's the details of the trade. And then Chris Haynes tweets, yes, I can confirm this is real. ESPN tweets out a graphic. At this point, we're like, oh shit, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
I'll let you start on this one. What was your reaction as I was telling you about this? And now that you've had a few days to digest this all, what do you think about the trade?
Yeah, when you first told me, I was like in complete shock, and the first things that I told you, like the first word that came out of my mouth was like, "Oh, it has to be fake. That has to be fake." Like Shams got hacked. This is that typical shit that happens to a lot of like these celebrities and very prominent people like in social media. Sometimes their accounts get hacked and whatnot. And like 5 minutes goes by, 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by, and it's still the same thing over and over. And like I remember we were like trying to like scramble to like stream it onto the TV to like see like if it's actually like real or not. When I knew it was real when ESPN started breaking it
They
on
start
their,
sharing it, yeah.
and that's when I knew like wow, like this is actually something that's real. Like a generational talent, arguably the top 3 player in the NBA getting traded for
Yep.
arguably the best defensive player in the league, in Anthony Davis. But that's beside the point here. This, as a Lakers fan, props to the Lakers, man. Props to Rob Pelinka for pulling this off for sure. This is the worst trade in NBA history. The worst trade in NBA history. You literally gave up a Hall of Fame small forward in today's today's day and age where those kind of players are coveted. Those are the most important players in today's league to build around. Guys that can shoot, pass, dribble, have the wherewithal in all facets of the game. And that's what Luka Doncic is. He is literally he's probably pound for pound, other than Jokic, probably the best European player ever. And you literally got, like, I'm not even talking about top 3 in the NBA. He's top 3 in the world. Like, of all basketball players, like everywhere in the world, he's top 3, right? So
you're talking about a guy who just last season averaged 34, 8 and 8. I think we've seen multiple triple doubles. You know, these are not just here 20 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. With Luka, it's 34 points, 15 boards, 12 assists on a nightly basis. Game winners.
He took him
went to the finals last year. And you're also talking about one of the most clutch players in the NBA. He's hit game winners in the playoffs since day one, right? We saw it last year against the Timberwolves with the step back he had over Gobert. You think about in the bubble when he had the game winner against the Clippers at the buzzer, right? A generational talent. And, you know, it's funny you say pound for pound, because let's get into that. Because the big talk about this whole deal and why the Mavs wanted to get rid of him was because of Luka's weight and conditioning, supposedly, right? Nico Harrison had concerns. Nico Harrison is the GM of the Mavs, the one who orchestrated this whole deal. Yeah. And the way this kind of all went down, Nico Harrison approached Rob Pelinka and told him, hey, would you be open to acquiring Luka Doncic? And Pelinka himself was surprised when Nico first said that to him. And the crazy thing about this is, yeah, nobody knew about this deal. Not Rich Paul, not Anthony Davis, not LeBron James. It first started just between Pelinka and Nico Harrison. And then Nico Harrison had discussions with, you know, the Mavericks front office, ownership, coaches. But with the Lakers side, it was just Pelinka and I think Jeannie Buss. They kept it super, super low key. And had this gone down any other way, we're not talking about this deal right now. There's no way. Right, because news gets out that Luka Doncic is available via trade, and now all these deals are going to be coming in. Every single GM in the league is calling the Mavs to make an offer, and
it would have been a bidding war for sure.
It would have been a huge bidding war, and we can all agree on this right off the bat. Whether you're a Lakers fan, a Mavs fan, a Warriors fan, whatever NBA fan you are, the Mavericks could have got way more in this deal, whether it was from the Lakers or from a different team. And it is shocking that they only got what they did. Look, Anthony Davis is a great player. He's a top 10 to top 15 player in the NBA, right? He's not a true number one. He's more like a 1B to 2, but he's probably the best number 2 guy in the NBA, right? When you look at him and the duo of LeBron James. AD is great, Dan. He's a fantastic player. I mean, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. He should have multiple Defensive Player of the Year awards, right? This is a guy who can guard 1 through 5, gives you 25 and 12 a night. But it is, I still think the Mavericks could have got more. And I don't know if you guys saw this report, but I'm going to talk about this too. Kirk Goldsberry, who's with The Ringer, an NBA analyst, he's on the Bill Simmons podcast. He said that originally this deal had included multiple first-round picks and Dalton Knecht, the Lakers' rookie first-round pick. And Rob Pelinka somehow was able to talk Nico Harrison down in this deal, suggesting that Luka's health and his conditioning and weight is a risk for the Lakers to take on. And supposedly that's how they got the deal down. It ended up being just AD, Christie, and a first-round pick. And look, like I said, AD is a great player, a two-way player, one of the best bigs in the NBA. Right now, it does help the Mavs a lot. But because AD is also 31, your timeline is shorter kind of, right? And Kyrie is, I think, 31, 32, kind of in that age group also. Their window kind of gets shortened now that you made this trade. Because with Luka, you're talking about like 10, 12 more years, right? As long as Luka's there, as long as he's healthy, your window is going to be open for a championship. Now it kind of accelerates their timeline. And it just goes back to, I don't know why they did this. You know, it is crazy. And I was calling for Rob Pelinka's neck for the last year or so because he had screwed this. He had screwed this Lakers roster's Laker roster up, right? After letting Alex Caruso walk, after trading for Russell Westbrook, the Lakers team has not been the same since. And somehow, some way, they were able to pull off this deal, and now Luka Doncic is a Laker. It's insane, and it didn't kick into me. It didn't sink in for me until today when I was reading this article on Bleacher Report, where they said that every single NBA executive around the league is pissed about this. They're pissed because, one, they didn't know Luka was going to be available, and two, just seeing what the Mavs got back in return for Luka, they're just absolutely furious.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too, right? Is that, look, the teams can be pissed, right? But the issue at hand that people don't see, look, it's a team to team discussion, right? Obviously, the Mavericks had a plan in mind, in their minds, that they wanted to go after a defensive minded center that can play power forward, because he's been bitching about it for the last month that he needs a center next to him, right? So that's one thing, right? That was one thing I was working in the favor of the Lakers, knowing that Anthony Davis would be comfortable going to this situation as a player and he wouldn't make a stink about it. The other thing, obviously, right, is they buttoned this up so well that it just makes you think, what other backdoor deals go on in the NBA that we never know about? What other handshake agreements are in place that nobody has any idea about? And then they actually materialize like a few months later, a few weeks later.
Shams himself said today, sorry to cut you off, on the Pat McAfee show, that when he got texted about the deal going down, he thought he was getting like a fraud text or some kind of scam. 100%. He thought he was getting hacked or something. That's the guy we thought his tweet was hacked. Isn't that crazy?
And that's the thing, right? It's like, we're thinking that he's hacked. He's thinking he got hacked. Like, that's how unbelievable the story is. And, like I said, kudos to the Lakers. Kudos to Rob Pelinka. He bought himself another 5 to 10 years with that franchise for sure. He could do no wrong in that city for the next 3 or 4 years. He landed arguably, the best NBA prospect that we have ever seen, like in the NBA, right? In a very, very long time, right? I mean, considering that there could be other people coming in the future and whatnot, but they set up the franchise for success for the next 10 years, no matter what, because guys are going to want to come to LA. One, the other thing is that, obviously people want to play with Luka Doncic, and, Dan is saying right here, where do you think AD is on the NBA hierarchy? I mean, just kind of like what Sandeep said, he's a 1B. He's not the guy that, you're going to rely on like a Steph, LeBron, KD, or Luka, or a Jokic, or a Giannis. He's not in that realm. He's that tier right below, right? Where if you give him the right complementary superstar, which he had with LeBron James, and they obviously produced results when they were both healthy, that's the type of player that Anthony Davis is. Kyrie Irving is the same thing. He's that 1B superstar, right?
Yeah.
And you put 2 1B superstars in a very, very good Mavericks team who is very sound defensively, who can shoot, who gets after it, right? Who is very well coached. I know Anthony Davis loved playing for Jason Kidd when he was an assistant for that 1 year. So obviously it's a familiar situation that he's going to in Dallas, and the system and whatnot, and the culture that Jason Kidd has. I mean, the coach Jason Kidd was surprised as well. And you could see in the presser that he was shook that Luka Doncic is no longer on this team. And he didn't have any issue with Luka. Luka loved playing for Jason Kidd. Taylor Parsons on his podcast today was saying that Luka was crying that he got traded, right? Because he had just bought a $15 million house in Dallas last week, because he thought that this was going to be his home for the foreseeable.
Property tax about to be crazy.
Exactly. So, for a guy like Luka, who at his age has to pick up his entire life, he's rich and all that kind of stuff, but he's still human, right? Like, he thought that he was going to be a Dallas Maverick for life. He wanted to be a Dallas Maverick for life, right? He wanted to be that next Dirk Nowitzki, right? Where he would help bring, championships to Dallas, which, is a relatively small market considering places like New York, LA, Boston, and obviously the Bay Area, right? So, this, like I told you, like when I got home that night, I thought about it for about an hour and a half, and I did my response in the chat. This is an absolute fleece job by the Lakers. The fact that Rob Pelinka could talk Nico Harrison down, and he's the one that's coming to him with the deal, and he's talking to him, is the most insane thing to me, right? And a lot of people don't know this, right? That look at this from the surface level. Obviously, people are knowing now as they read more into it. Nico Harrison, he was at Nike for 20 years, and Kobe Bryant, when he was Rob Pelinka's, client, right? Rob Pelinka did a lot of dealings with Nike directly, and the guy that I talked to the most was Nico Harrison. So
they've had a relationship for a long time.
This is a relationship-based business. It's just like when you go out for a job in the corporate world, it's all about who you know. You submit your resume to people that you know, and they submit your resume for you, right? That's kind of like how it works. So,
it's funny you mentioned the Nike thing too with Nico Harrison, because this isn't the first time Nico Harrison has fumbled the bag with a generational star. For those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of you guys do, but if you don't, Nico Harrison was the one who was in charge of presenting to Steph Curry when Nike was trying to sign him back in the day. And Nico Harrison fucked up because the presentation he used was just the same Kevin Durant presentation that they had used. And there was still photos and I think KD's name in that presentation that they hadn't even fixed. And then he also accidentally called Seth, who is Steph Curry's brother, obviously. And obviously we know what happened then, right? Steph ended up going to Under Armour. And you're talking about Nike just lost billions of dollars by not even making a simple presentation to Steph Curry, right? And that's on Nico Harrison. Now here he is 15 years later, trading away a generational superstar. And real quick, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's tuned in right now to the deep dive. We're going to talk about all things NBA today, and we're going to get into some of these questions too. Yash asked, if the Mavs win a chip, will it be worth it, or do they need to win multiple? If they win at least one chip with this core now of Kyrie and AD, I think you can say it's justified, but it's still stupid because they should not have traded Luka. Like you were just saying, right? This was their guy who's supposed to be a lifer, and Luka's dad came out and said that he felt basically like they felt disrespected, that they just traded Luka like this. And, also considering the accusations and why they traded him, his conditioning, his health, he's fat, right? He has a drinking problem, all these things that the Mavs were saying. It's disrespectful.
Yeah, he's playing 40 minutes a night, putting his body on the line every single time.
Even if he is knocking back beers after the game, like he just did that after dropping a 40-point triple-double, and he just got you to the finals. Like, yes, conditioning can be improved, right? You can have a conversation with him like, hey, in the offseason, we want you to focus on this. This is the goal. Work with the trainer, blah, blah, blah. But that's your guy. And to just deal him away like that is just insane. But to answer your question, Yash, I think if they win at least one chip, it is worth it. But the trade was still stupid on behalf of the Mavericks. So, it's wild. Was this the biggest trade in American sports history? I mean,
it could be.
Yeah, it could be.
It's definitely the biggest highway robbery in the history of the NBA for sure. I mean,
yeah,
we'll have to go back and look at the NFL and stuff, right, to see if there's been anything close. But from the NBA perspective, this is by far the most one-sided trade that I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. This is the most one-sided trade that I thought that the Pau Gasol trade, 17 years to the day that the Luka Doncic trade happened, 17 years ago is when you guys got Pau Gasol. I thought that was the worst trade of all time, one-sided trade of all time. This literally took the cake, and I don't think there can ever be another trade this bad. I mean, never say never, obviously, right? But I don't think there can ever be a trade this bad again in the NBA. But it's still 3 days left. There's a lot of desperate teams, cough, Golden State. So you never know what could happen out there, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely crazy. I mean, I think and the wild part about this too is when you look at how the NBA trade landscape has changed over the last few seasons, right? It started with the Rudy Gobert trade a handful of years ago when Utah traded him to Minnesota for a shit ton of first-round picks, and they overpaid for him for sure, Minnesota, right? And it kind of reset the market in terms of what guys would be traded for now, because Rudy Gobert is a one-trick pony, right? He can only guard. He's a defensive guy. He rebounds, but he can't even guard 1 through 5. He guards just bigs, and that's it. And then you see what Mikal Bridges went for this past offseason, 5 first-round picks, right, from the Knicks. And now Luka goes for AD, who's, again, phenomenal player, but AD, Max Christie, and just 1 pick. Not multiple picks, not Dalton Connect in there, not Austin Reeves in there. I mean, it's crazy that, as a Laker fan, I'm bummed that we lost AD, because AD it felt like we lost a true Laker.
Yep.
a guy who's been with a team now for 6-7 years, helped us win a championship, really embodied, I felt like, what it means to be a Laker. He loved being there,
Yep.
obviously signed his extension recently. But to see him go is definitely tough. But of course, I'm excited now that we have this next superstar, for the next 10 years. And, to go from Kobe to LeBron and now to Luka. I mean, look, NBA fans, you guys can't say shit to Laker fans about, oh, you guys always think you're getting this player. You guys always think you're getting that player. Because guess what? We went from Kobe to LeBron. We got AD. And now we just got Luka. So there's not really much you guys can say. Say what you want about Nico Harrison, Rob Pelinka, whatever. We just got our next superstar for the next 10 years. And, the Warriors had their time for the last 7 years, right? They had their dynasty, getting 4 rings in 7 years. They dominated the West, the NBA for a period of time. And now this post-LeBron era, and, that's not interesting thing about this too, is what does this mean for LeBron, right?
Yeah.
Shams and Chris Haynes both reported that LeBron is not going to get traded come Thursday. And who knows, maybe, he's said in the past before that he would love to play with Luka Doncic one day. And now here he is. They're going to be teammates. Does LeBron stay in the NBA, stay with the Lakers for a few more years? Because now you have a guy on the team that can handle the rock, that can score 30, 35 a night. And it kind of lessens the load on LeBron, right? He doesn't have to play on the ball anymore as much as he has been in the past couple of years. We've already seen him kind of playing off the ball this season, right? With Austin Reeves handling majority of the point guard duties, running pick and rolls, getting guys involved. But now you got Luka, who's going to be running point for this team. And you'd have to think it's going to definitely take a big load off of LeBron James and everything he has to do on a nightly basis. So It's going to be interesting to see just what this means for LeBron James and his future with the Lakers and with the NBA too. So just incredible. I will say the Lakers do get bad defensively by losing Anthony Davis. I think we can all agree to that. So they have to make some more moves. I'm curious to see if they do anything else now. With the remaining assets they have, they try to get a big, right? Like a Clint Capella, Walker Kessler, Robert Williams, and try to maximize this season, right?
They have to.
I would imagine they will, because
Mitchell Robinson, Nick Claxton, those are the guys I'm hearing right now. Even Miles Turner, might still be in play. There's still 3 days left here. Like, there's a lot that can still happen with a lot of different franchises, right? A lot of teams are still shook by this move. I think that's why the deadline's kind of paused right now. I think that's why the Lakers did this as well, to make the league think twice about what they're actually going to want to do moving forward. And it's got all of us buzzing and talking, right? It's been having us buzzing and talking for the last 3 nights, right? Like, this is what the NBA needed to improve the ratings, and they got it. Like, this is the parity that everybody always wants to see. It's the same thing that happened when Golden State got Kevin Durant, right? It almost happened when Kevin Durant went to the Nets, right? But that big 3 failed, right? People want to be able to see teams fail, right? And that's the biggest parity in the NBA and the paradox that people want to be able to see. So, when we were watching the Warriors, right? Non-Golden State fans always wanted the Warriors to lose, right? From 2014 to 2019, they were praying for their downfall, right? Same thing happened when AD went to the Lakers.
I was rooting for you guys in 2015, 2016.
You were, for sure, yeah. You were
for
one
those
of the,
2 years. Once KD went to the Dub, that's when I stopped rooting for him.
And not only that, when LeBron went to the Lakers, that's when you really stopped rooting for us. But it's just one of those things where the NBA needed a team that everyone else can hate on, right? And they haven't had a super team for a while now. Obviously, like I said, like the Dubs were like that last franchise that kind of had that kind of parity, where year in and year out, you knew that these guys were going to be there at the end. Win or lose, they were going to be in the NBA Finals. Everybody always knew that, right? For a 5-year stretch, everybody knew that. And I think this is the league's way of saying that, like, we want to be able to create parity. We want the largest, the most recognizable franchise in sports, in the Lakers, right? We want them to have arguably a top 3 player, right? Which is Luka Doncic. And we want to be able to ensure that, at least for the next decade, that NBA teams are going to be following this. The league as a whole is going to be following this, and us fans are going to be following this, right? And it's got people buzzing even outside of sports outlets, right? Like other news outlets are reporting this, right? So, they talked about it on CNN, Fox News, like all these different places where
this is
sports is not really talked about, right? But this is big, bro. Like, you're sending a guy that could go down. He could go down as the greatest player of all time if it works out for him, right? You never know how this next decade could go. He could end up winning 5 or 6 championships. We don't know, right? Like, he could literally go down as the greatest player of all time with this move because of the market, the way that the Buss family does business, right? They have deep pockets, obviously. They're not afraid of the luxury tax. They know that they can attract free agents year in and year out. And this is just the start of something for the NBA now. They want to have parity because they had their highest ratings when they had teams that people wanted to hate on. So
the super teams, the super team era, right, was obviously like when 100%. We saw the Warriors and the Cavs going at it every single year for 4 or 5 years. It was great because it created that rivalry, right? On one side you had Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iggy, and then KD, right? And the other side you had LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, and it was just rematches after rematches, and it was great. But like you said, this is absolutely fantastic for the NBA because the talk of NBA this year has been ratings are down. What's going on? How come people aren't watching, right? And now you just landed one of your top 3 players in the game in the biggest market in sports, Los Angeles, right? Luka is a Laker. And not only is he a Laker, he's a Laker alongside LeBron James. You're talking about probably the 2 most global superstars in the NBA and in all of sports now on the same team. And the Lakers already were getting primetime games like crazy, right? Because of LeBron. But now Luka's there. So you can only imagine for the next 5 to 10 years how many Laker games are going to be on TV and just what this is going to do for the overall sport. So this is definitely a huge win, for the NBA. TJ asked, do you think the NBA did this to bring back the Lakers-Celtics rivalry? I wouldn't say, that's why they did it. I mean, of course, NBA didn't really have a say in this, right? This is a deal between the Mavericks and the Lakers. The only thing the NBA does is approve the trade. But like I said, the NBA is definitely super, super happy about this to get one of the league's top superstars into a big market like Los Angeles. So it's a huge win, for the NBA. To Kamal's question, was this a worse trade than the PG-13? I think that PG trade was terrible, man. That PG trade was terrible because
it was bad. It was bad for sure.
Yeah. OKC gave up, SGA, or sorry, the Clippers gave up SGA and what was it, like 4 or 5 first-round picks, a few other players in that deal.
We didn't know what SGA was at that time, right? SGA ended up blossoming into, this year he's like the
top 6 player. Yeah,
he's the best player in the NBA this year, right? He's going to win MVP this year. When you're the most valuable player,
potentially.
So, we never knew that SGA was going to be a superstar. Oklahoma City, you can ask them too if they did that trade over again. They didn't think that SGA was going to be a superstar, right? So, obviously the picks are always a gamble. We don't know what's going to come from the picks, but history will tell you that more often than not, when you give away that many picks, there's going to be at least 1 or 2 all-stars that you get out of that. Depending on how the team that you got them from performs, right? So I still think that the Luka trade is the worst, though. Like the fact that there's no value outside of this year and next year. There's no value for that trade for the Mavericks.
If the Mavs end up winning a title out of this, then it was great. But because Paul George, his time on the Clippers didn't result in even a finals trip, obviously not a championship. Now he's not even on the team. That's definitely the worst trade. But if the Mavs don't end up getting anything out of this, then you can say that it'll go down as one of the worst trades too, if not more worse than this one. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but one other thing that I wanted to touch on, right? And I talked to you about this too over the weekend. Why would you trade him within the conference? Why would you want to have that situation where
because they wanted AD, man. They wanted AD. That's
want to see this guy 3 to 4 times a year. A guy that loved your city, a guy that loved the franchise, gave everything for the franchise. He's gonna burn you every single time he sees you. He's gonna average 50 points per game against your franchise for the rest of his career, and you get to see him 4 times a year. So good luck with that.
Yeah, like I said, man, it's for them. It's just they had their eyes set on AD. They really, really value him, right? Because let's be real. There's not many guys in the league like Anthony Davis, right? Who are giving you 25 and 12 on one end and then, also playing defense 1 through 5 on the other. And I know people love to hate on AD saying, oh, he's always hurt, he's always injured. Yes, there was a period of time where he was very injury prone for a couple of seasons, but for the last 2 years, he's played in over 90% of the games. So, you got to squash that narrative. Like, yeah, he misses some games here and there, but a lot of guys in the NBA miss games now more than ever. But for the last 2 years, AD's been very healthy, very reliable, and, pretty dominant when he's been on the court. So, that narrative of him not being healthy is kind of got to go. Randy, you're hating too much in the comments, bro. Talking about Bronny and this and that. And Dan, I can see you guys hating on the Lakers, saying the bubble title wasn't real. Guess what? It's up in the banners, man. So there's nothing you guys can say against that. And guess what, Dubs fans? Now you guys got to face Luka 4 times a year too. So have fun with that for the next decade.
Looking forward to it.
All right, man. We're gonna circle back to the Warriors in a bit. Let's real quick talk about this Kings trade, because De'Aaron Fox said he wanted out of Sac, and guess what? He got out of Sac, and he also got traded to the team that he wanted to go to. He's with the San Antonio Spurs. This deal landed Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, who I don't even know who the hell that is, 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks. That's what Sacramento got. Spurs got Fox and McLaughlin. The Bulls got Kevin Huerter, a few other guys, and then a first-round pick. What do you think about this trade? Did the Kings get good value back here for De'Aaron Fox, or was it too little, just right? What do you think?
I think this trade was a little bit interesting because the Kings acted on this a year early. Obviously, like, they didn't want to have a situation where, next year is the last year of his contract. They don't want to seem like they're desperate. They're going to try to get the most amount of value that they possibly can. The player has indicated, the agent has indicated as well that, it's going to be tough for De'Aaron Fox to re-sign in Sacramento. So I think given the circumstances, landing a guy like Zach LaVine, who's, was on the Dubs radar for the last couple of weeks, obviously, is a pretty good pull. I really feel like people make a lot of stink about his contract, but he's a really good player who's super efficient. He shoots 50% from the field and 40% from 3. There's only like 3 guys in the NBA that actually do that. And he's one of them. So, I think that, or 3 guards, I should say, not 3 guys, but, I think given the circumstances with Sacramento, I think they got the best that they possibly could. They got 3 first-round picks out of it, essentially. So they're not done making moves. I think they acquired those picks to try to go and get someone else, which they probably will. So I think this sets them up. I mean, for a franchise like Sacramento, who hasn't had much success over the last 20 to 25 years, I think this is a really, really significant move. Obviously, the roster's not balanced. They still need a point guard, and they need some wing defense as well. But I think this is a step in the right direction. Worst comes to worst, if this doesn't work out for the rest of the season, they could always trade LaVine in the offseason as well, try to recoup some more picks or try to get a better fit for their franchise. But I think, given the situation, given, how the timeline was, and knowing that De'Aaron Fox was probably not going to re-sign with Sacramento, I'm glad that they got ahead of this a year earlier. The GM did a decent enough job to ensure that they would have some value. And, one thing I want to point out for the Chicago Bulls, they are absolutely terrible.
Just a shit organization.
You lose Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan, and Zach LaVine, and you get no first-round picks.
That's wild. The fact that they didn't get a first-round pick for Alex Caruso, who's an all-NBA defender, is just wild, man. I mean, the Bulls, ever since the D Rose era, they've been shit, right? They had a stint for from 2008 to maybe 2013 when Derrick Rose was there that they were doing well, but since then, this organization's been complete shit, man. And they definitely got the lower end of the stick in this 3-team trade, because I feel like they definitely could have got back more for Zach LaVine. Like you said, he's a good player, man. I mean, I know last season he was hurt, had a down year or two, but this year was having one of the best years of his career. Yeah. Talking about a guy who can average, I think he's averaging close to 25 points. He's shooting 40% plus from 3. Yep. Really athletic, 6'4", 6'5" guy. People want to say, well, he's not a great defender. I think you put Zach LaVine on the right team in the right system, anyone can become a good defender, because 80-90% of playing defense is just having pride and playing with heart, right? And
100%.
the other 10 to 20% of that is just your athleticism, your size, and all that. So the Bulls are definitely, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't think they clearly don't know what the hell they're doing. For the Kings, I don't know, man. It's good that they got ahead of this, like you said, but to me, while they got Zach LaVine in the deal, those 3 first-round picks they got, one of those is the Charlotte 2025 pick, which isn't that great of a pick either.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that they didn't get Stephon Castle in this deal to me is wild, right? If I was the Kings, I'm like, hey, we'll do this deal, but Stephon Castle has to be in it, because you can trade Fox to another team, right? There's other teams that are interested in him, but the fact that they didn't even get Castle in that, or maybe like at least one other first round pick, to me was wild. So the return was okay. Me and Dan were talking about this last night when he was over, and he thinks LaVine, good player. They got a few picks, plus a 3 second-round picks, so 6 picks in total, which is solid. And I guess it just depends on like how you view De'Aaron Fox. Is he top 15 player? Is he a top 20 player? People were arguing about, was he number 1 on that team, or was it Sabonis? Like, who's the best player on that team? Was it like a 1A, 1B kind of situation, right? Where Fox is the closer of the team, but they kind of play through Sabonis. So I guess it just depends on how you value Fox. And maybe you can say it was a fair value trade. And then to TJ's point, he said in the comments that the Spurs won the trade. I think so too. You got De'Aaron Fox. You have a young point guard in his prime who wants to be in San Antonio. So I guarantee you he's going to sign an extension within the next few months, right? If not right now, probably in the offseason, but he's going to be with the Spurs for the next 5 to 6 years. And you pair him with Wemby. They still have Devin Vassell. They drafted Stephon Castle, who's a great young rookie. Chris Paul, is going to be able to kind of help, I feel like, with De'Aaron Fox and unleash some of his game too. One area that Fox has struggled, according to Kings fan, is his pick and roll game and being able to run that effectively. He's going to learn a lot, playing next to Chris Paul. So the Spurs definitely won that trade. The Kings probably right there under them in terms of the return they got, and then the Bulls, the clear loser of that 3-way trade. So some big deals going around in the NBA for sure. Let's talk about your team now, man, and the team that a lot of the fans and people in the comments here follow, the Golden State Warriors. Are the Warriors cooking, or are they cooked? Because they had supposedly been in talks for Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic from the Bulls, but they don't end up making a trade with them. Jimmy Butler, who the Warriors have been linked to, said he would not sign an extension with the Warriors. So now, where do they go from here? Because Shams reported that the Warriors are pretty much calling damn near every team in the NBA, trying to see if they can get an all-star level player next to Steph Curry. Reports that they want Giannis. Of course, we know they've been wanting Giannis for the past 3-4 years. Also reports that the Suns are supposedly listening to offers for Kevin Durant. That is definitely very interesting, right? Because the Suns fucked themselves over with this Bradley Beal contract. No one wants to take. You guys think the Zach LaVine contract's bad? Hell no. Look at that Bradley Beal contract. That is the worst contract in the NBA right now. No trade clause, making $45 to $50 million a year. Bradley Beal's not getting traded. So now the Suns are at this point where they're kind of forced to make a move, and maybe KD ends up back on the Warriors. But Cooner, I'll let you take this segment over. What are the Warriors doing? What should they do? Who should they be targeting? Are they cooking, or are they cooked right now?
It's hard for me to say that they're cooked because they still have Steph Curry. And until the day that Steph Curry is no longer on the Golden State Warriors, I'm not going to ever say that they're cooked, because I thought they were cooked after 2019 when Kevin Durant left and Klay Thompson got hurt. I literally thought that was going to be the end. I thought that after that there would be a really bad transitional period for the franchise. And it looked like that for the first 2 years after that, when they had to get D'Angelo Russell, right, in that sign and trade with the Kevin Durant deal. And then they flipped Russell for Andrew Wiggins, who at that time was, considered one of like the most, how should I say it, like underperforming first overall picks that we've probably ever seen. But then obviously they won the championship in 22. They had some things go their way in terms of the roster and the way the league was aligned that particular year. So where they fucked up was after 2022, they didn't really do anything to improve the roster because they felt like that they could do this 2 timelines thing, and that hasn't worked out. And I think now this year more than ever, they're starting to feel that. I think they wanted to give it at least 2 years to see where this would go, and this was like the second full year of the experimentation, and it's failed halfway through. We don't know what Jonathan Kuminga is going to be in this league. Moses Moody is at best a serviceable role player.
Yep.
James Wiseman is no longer here. They traded him for 3 second-round picks and Gary Payton. Jordan Poole got traded for a 39-year-old Chris Paul, and they had to attach a first-round pick with that. That guy was the only hope that you had outside of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry of giving you consistent offense every night. It's tough, right? It's really, really tough to say that they're cooking. They're definitely not cooking right now, but I'm not going to go as far as to say that they're cooked because there's still 3 days left before there's a big pivotal change to be made for the franchise. Regardless of how this trade deadline shakes out, I think they're still going to come up on the short end. I don't think they're going to be able to get a superstar just because of the way the landscape of the NBA is now. I think a lot of the NBA teams are afraid to make moves right now too because of what the Lakers just did as well, because they need to assess how the rest of the season is going to play out and assess, what they're going to do in the offseason to counter those moves. I don't think this is something that you can figure out, in a trade deadline for a lot of these teams, including the Golden State Warriors. So it's going to be really tough, man. I think that, it's an aging roster, obviously, a lot of expiring contracts for sure. They have a lot of tradable assets. But ownership has kind of been hesitant to pull the trigger for the last couple of years, and I don't think that's going to change this time around.
I'll tell you what, man. I think if the Warriors let this deadline pass and they don't end up with an all-star caliber guy right now, they're cooked for the rest of this season. In the offseason, they can definitely get back to the drawing board and see what they can do. But that's when they're going to have to decide what direction they're going in, right? Are you going rebuild or are you going all in? And I'll tell you guys what. Yes, I'm a Laker fan, obviously, but as an NBA fan, as a basketball guy, you have to maximize Stephen Curry as long as he's on your team. Forget your young players, forget your picks. You have to go all in. I know Steph and Draymond and Kerr said they don't want to mortgage the future, in pursuit of a title. Nah, bro. F them picks, as we say, right? F them picks. Curry can play. I see people in the comments saying here that Steph is cooked. Nah, look, yes, Steph has had games where he's had his ups and downs and whatnot, but Steph is still one of the best players in the NBA, and I think he can play at a high level for another 5-6 years if he wants to. Easy. And it's been hard for Steph this season because they don't have a number 2 guy next to him, and teams are doubling him every single night, right? They're trying to make other guys beat him, whether it's Wiggins, whether it's Moses Moody, Kuminga, whoever it is. This is Steph Curry. They have to maximize him while he's on this roster. You owe it to him, given everything that he's given this franchise over the last few years. 100%. Kuminga, I'm on board with you. Kuminga, yes, he maybe has the potential to be an all-star caliber guy. He's shown some flashes here and there, but if you can swap him and go get yourself KD back on this team right now, you do it in a heartbeat. I know if Mike Dunleavy got offered KD and Jonathan Kuminga had to be in that deal, he would do it in a heartbeat, and he'd be stupid not to, right? So I think that's probably the most realistic thing the Warriors can do right now. I don't see Giannis getting traded. The Luka thing was
Zion Williamson, something, right? Something that kind of gives you hope. There's no hope right now, right? Because of the way that they've been doing business the last couple of years. So they've tried to draft, right? It hasn't worked out. They're trying to develop these young players. Steve Kerr doesn't like doing that shit, right? He wants a ready-made player that he can fit into his system. So either get rid of the coach or change your philosophy, right, on these players. And they're not doing either. Steve Kerr's not going to go anywhere, at least for the next year, right? Mm-hmm. And they didn't give Jonathan Kuminga a contract extension So that means they don't necessarily believe in him, but they also didn't want to include him in trades for Lauri Markkanen or Paul George. So I don't know which direction they want to go. I think
Yeah.
this move by
What
the
is
Lakers,
it?
I think this move by the
Sorry.
Lakers really shook Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy up, because they know that they have to see this player 4 times a year in the division for the next decade. They're not going to stand for that shit. They have to do something to at least be relevant for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about the the Dubs in this front office that they're so high on Kuminga and Pods, and some of these young guys that they have, because I'll say this: Pod has been playing better the last few weeks. I've watched a handful of Dubs games. He seems like his shot's back, his confidence is there. I know he was off to a slow start in the season, but like you said, they didn't want to include these guys in a deal that could have got them Lauri Markkanen, right? And had they swung that deal for Markkanen, the Warriors are probably a top 4 to 5 team right now in the West comfortably, and they're looking to add an asset to build a full contending team. You're not talking about we need help to kind of stay afloat, right? Now you're talking about like, what can we do to become the true contender? Because Markkanen and Steph would have been a great duo, but they didn't want to give up Kuminga in the deal. I don't even know if Pods was included in that deal, but now the Warriors are here at the deadline making moves, and it's kind of crazy that Jimmy Butler wouldn't want to sign an extension with the Warriors, because you're talking about, like I said, a team that just had a dynasty, right? 4 titles in 7 seasons. You're playing with Steph, Draymond too, assuming that he's not in that deal going to Miami, right? So you have some dogs on that team. You have a team filled with veterans that knows how to win, a good coach. It's wild to me that Jimmy doesn't want to go there.
I think with Jimmy, he's banking on going to the Phoenix Suns, and the Suns are banking on getting him before they make a decision on what direction they want to go. Because if they're not able to unload Bradley Beal's contract by Thursday, before the trade deadline, I think that they're going to seriously consider, like, if they know by like Tuesday night, let's say for example, that Bradley Beal is not going to want to waive his no trade clause for any scenario, right? If they know that for a fact, and KD knows that too, and he's stuck with Bradley Beal for the next 2 seasons, what do you think Kevin Durant's going to want to do? He's not going to re-sign with the Suns even when his contract is up, right? And if the Suns catch wind of this, why would they want to keep Kevin Durant, right?
And that's why they're exploring trades right now for KD, right? Because look, this Jimmy Butler thing has been brewing for the last 2 weeks. He's made it clear that he wants to go to the Suns. The Suns have made it clear that they want Jimmy. We're 2 weeks into just that part of it, and still not even reports of any offers being made or them getting close to a deal. So at this point, it makes me think that this Jimmy Butler deal to the Suns is, I don't know if it's going to happen, because the holdup is that they probably can't find anyone to take on this Bradley Beal contract, right? And if you are trading Beal, you're going to have to give up a first-round pick at least to make it happen. And the Suns don't even have many picks within the next few years because they traded all of them to get KD, right? So they're stuck, and that's why now they're scrambling and pivoting to, hey, we might have to trade KD.
Yeah.
I wonder if they consider trading Devin Booker, because I know Booker's their guy, but they can get way more back for Devin Booker than they can get for KD right now, given KD's 35, 36 years old. Probably will play till he's maybe 40 years old, right? I think.
Easy. He can play till he's 42, 43.
He has a handful of years left, but Devin Booker's only, I think, 27, 28, so he has another probably 10 years in the league at least.
Yep.
And if you put Booker on the market, there's going to be offers pouring in like crazy, and you'll get way bigger of a return than you'll get for KD. So the Suns are definitely in a very, very bad place right now. And then Jimmy Butler, it's going to be interesting to see if he gets traded or not. I'm sure Miami's doing their best to get him out of there because they don't want anything to do with Jimmy. Giannis, I don't see him getting traded this time around, maybe in the offseason. But it'll definitely be interesting if KD gets moved. I think the Warriors have to be all in on trying to get KD right now, and I'd be shocked if they hadn't made any calls yet.
I think they're definitely serious about it. They've been wanting to do this for a couple of years now. I feel like the relationship between Steve Kerr and KD already got repaired. if there was any animosity during the Olympics. I feel like Draymond Green is a different person from what he was before with the whole Kevin Durant situation because he sings his praises a lot, even though they like to rag on each other on respective podcasts and social media posts and whatnot. It's still all in good fun, and I feel like there is a mutual respect there still. But Steph Curry and KD, I mean, that was a duo that was as dynamic as anything when they were together for those 3 years. So I know they had a lot of fun in the Olympics together. I know they had a lot of fun, the first 2 years for sure in Golden State. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Warriors are able to pull this off because for Kevin Durant, it would be a situation that he's going into that's very similar. It would not be a long-term situation. He would probably ride it out for the final year of his contract and maybe go elsewhere. He would probably want to see, like, even if he did get traded, he wouldn't sign an extension with the Warriors. He would want to see what are the Dubs going to do to improve this roster during the offseason because obviously you get Kevin Durant this season, that's knowing that you're probably not going to be competing for a championship. That's to set yourself up for the future, which is next season. Because I feel like you would have to gut the roster so much. Same thing with the Lakers. They didn't do this move to win a championship this year. This was a move that they had for the next decade, right? So I think the Dubs see this in a similar light where if they get a guy like Kevin Durant, Zion Williamson, a Jimmy Butler, it wouldn't be a move for this year. It would be a move for the next 2 or 3 years. And that's pretty much the window that they have left with Steph Curry, playing at a very, very elite level. So it's gonna be really interesting. But I know that as a fan you get emotional for sure because all these different deals are happening and guys are getting traded that you thought you could get for sure. But the only hope that they still have is that there's still a few days left. The trade deadline is still near, right? And there hasn't been a lot of chatter with a lot of other teams right now. Like everything is just speculation, everything is just rumors, but nothing is going to be set in stone until that deadline comes on Thursday. So there's still a chance for redemption. I'm hopeful, but we'll really see what happens.
Yeah, I want to hear from people in the comments, all the Warrior fans. Who should they go for right now? Should they go for KD? Is Zion Williamson a guy you guys would should trade for? I think Zion's definitely an interesting option. Of course, KD would be the top priority, right? If you can, if the Suns are willing to trade him, 100%, right? Go for KD. But Zion's still only 24, 25 years old. I know he's had his health issues, right? We talk about conditioning with Luka, but Zion, when he's on the court, is dominant, man. I mean, I know he's only a true like 6'6", 6'7", but you're talking about a guy who scores like 25 points for every like 30 minutes he plays. He's dominant around the paint. That we talked about this, I think, on Friday, right? You and I were working, but when the Lakers played the Pelicans in that play-in game, I think was it last season or maybe 2 seasons ago, Zion was dominating them. And if he didn't get hurt, there's a very good chance the Lakers lose that game and get eliminated, right? Zion ended up, I think, rolling his ankle or something with his hamstring and
that was it.
Is out the game, right? But Zion's a really good player when he's healthy. And again, that's a guy who's been with the Pelicans for his whole career. Maybe a change of scenery, playing on with an organization like the Warriors who know how to run their team, right? And playing next to guys like Steph and Draymond would be good for him. And he's under contract for a few more years. And the way his contract is set up, if he doesn't play a minimum number of games each season, the Warriors aren't obligated to pay him, I think, his full salary. So it's a guy you can get for like a low cost and could be one of those situations where maybe it's not a high risk, high reward, but maybe it's a low risk, high reward situation because it wouldn't take a lot to get him, and maybe you try to get someone else in that deal too. I don't know, like go ask for CJ McCollum in that deal. And now you have another guard, something like that. But I think they should definitely explore the Zion thing. I don't think Giannis, like I said, gets traded right now. The Bucks are actually having a pretty good season, and I think they're trying to be buyers right now. They've looked into Jimmy Butler, which would definitely make things interesting for the Bucks and the way the East is set up. If the Bucks are able to get Jimmy, maybe in the offseason, if the Bucks don't make it past the second round this year in the playoffs, then they go try to get Giannis or open up trade talks for him. But right now, I don't think they're going for him. Randy said nobody's trading for CJ. Did you guys see that? You guys see that tweet when CJ McCollum said you got to keep your bags packed right now, and somebody was like, "Ain't nobody trading for you."
Yeah, that was funny, man. You just never know in this business, right? Like it's kind of crazy how things go, and that's why there's just so much parity right now with the NBA. And if the ratings were ever down, they ain't down no more. I'll say that much.
Yeah, no, the ratings are definitely on the way up. Endo said the Warriors should trade for Embiid. I don't think they'd want anything to do with Embiid.
Oh,
honestly, is
God.
Great player, but just unhealthy. And you talk about guys that are out of shape and unhealthy, and Embiid's at the top of that list. I mean, I think he's played like 15 games this year for the Sixers. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole if I was the Warriors. So, yeah, it's like you said, 3 more days left, man, until the trade deadline. Still a lot of rumors going around. Like we said, KD, Cam Johnson, right, is a guy who's been talked about a lot. We'll see if he gets moved by somebody. Jimmy Butler, will he get traded? Bradley Beal, will he get traded? I'm so curious to see if the Lakers make another move or not, because you said it doesn't make them better right now, the Luka trade, right? Because obviously they get worse defensively, but I think with another good move, there's a chance that they have to go get a big, right? Because right now it's only Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood on this roster. Christian Wood hasn't even played yet. So I'll see if they, I'm curious to see if they make more moves and be aggressive here at the deadline. Few more days, so it's going to be exciting to see if any more trades come through. But with that being said, let's spend the last 10, 15 minutes here talking some football, because guess what, guys? There's a Super Bowl on Sunday. As much as none of us care about this game because it's the Chiefs and the Eagles, 2 teams we all hate. This is it, right? The last game of the year. So I want to hear from everyone in the comments too. Who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for anyone in the Super Bowl? I know we would love to see, Bane just blow the stadium up and have nobody win this game. That's like the best case scenario, but it's probably not going to happen at this point. So Dan said, I hate the Lakers far more than I hate the Chiefs. Well, guess what, buddy? We got Luka Doncic, so you better get used to hating for the next decade, all right?
Yeah.
Cooner, man. Chiefs, Eagles. Who are you rooting for? As much as it pains you, you want to see Mahomes get a 3-peat and make some history as the first team in the Super Bowl era to 3-peat, or you want to see the Niners NFC rival, the Eagles, knock off the Chiefs here and their dynasty?
Man, this is a tough one for sure because, on both sides of the fence, I equally hate the fan bases. Eagles, obviously, because of, the Niners going up against them and obviously being in the same conference. But the Chiefs, Sandeep, you know this more than anybody knows this. Whenever I hear about Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, Swift, and all that shit, like, it irks me. It irks me to no day, and I go off like in all the group chats when I have to talk about this kind of stuff. But as much as it pains me to say this, the Chiefs are going to win this Super Bowl. There's no way that this isn't set up for a 3-peat for the Chiefs. Their defense has been outstanding all season. Everything has gone their way. Guys have stayed healthy. They got guys back at the right time. I feel like the Eagles, they're definitely really, really good. But, destiny is not on their side in this particular matchup. It's just one of those situations where you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes who, runs the league in today's day and age. Jalen Hurts is a very, very overrated quarterback. We talk about this all the time.
100% agree with that.
He's probably going to falter in this situation again. He got Saquon, and Saquon has been phenomenal this season. But if there's any team that can slow down Saquon, it's Steve Spagnuolo and that defense. They can make him useless, basically, if they wanted to. So as much as it pains me to say this, the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. That's my pick. I don't know what the score is going to be. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the lights are going to go out in the Superdome. I don't know. But whatever happens at the end of the day, the Chiefs are going to win. It could be 9-6. It could be 38-35. Any kind of one possession game is always going to be in the Chiefs' favor no matter what, because they have 15 on that side and they have an elite defense. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs, man.
I also think the Chiefs are going to win, but I'm going to make the case for the Eagles right now because I think this Eagles team is much better than the one they had 2 years ago when they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Don't forget that game came down to the wire, right? And the Eagles lost on a very, very kind of, 50-50 kind of holding call on who was the Eagles cornerback that was this Slay that was called for that penalty?
Slay.
Yeah. There was a bit of a hold, but everyone's argument there was you don't make that call in that scenario. It wasn't an egregious, just outright, oh, he got grabbed like just out of pocket, right? It's like 100% there. It was one of those kind of ones where it's like, yeah, it's like it was a penalty, but you could also maybe like let it go. Right? Oh, Bradbury. Okay.
Yeah.
So look, yeah, that game came down to the wire, right? And they lost by 3 points. But now here we go. It's round 2 between the Chiefs and the Eagles. And this Eagles team is good, man. I mean, we talk about Saquon and how dominant he's been. Offensive line is fantastic. They have a strong defensive line too. Their secondary has been one of the best in the entire league, if not the best. And they take the ball away, this Eagles defense, right? We saw them turn the Washington Commanders over a few times in the NFC Championship. And as good as Mahomes is, he's gotten the team to this point. Obviously, we know he's the best player in the league. He did throw a lot of interceptions this year. And if they can turn him over a couple times in this game, it's going to make it interesting. The Chiefs are definitely going to be keyed in on trying to stop Saquon, and they're going to try to make Jalen Hurts beat them. So this game's going to come down to Hurts, right? And we know he's not 100% dealing with a knee issue, but he's had a couple weeks now to rest. But it's going to come down to Hurts. Can he make the reads? Can he get his guys the ball right? They have weapons on offense outside of Saquon, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then he's going to have to make plays with his legs. He's going to have to scramble for the first down like we see Mahomes do on those third downs and whatnot. So I think this game comes down to Hurts. If he can make plays, then the Eagles will have a very, very good chance to win. If Hurts is sitting in the pocket, getting frazzled back there, if he's holding on to the ball, not making his reads, not scrambling outside the pocket and making this Chiefs defense collapse, then it's going to be a bad game for the Eagles, and it might not even be close. So it's going to come down to Hurts because, like I said, we know Saquon is going to be the focal point of the Chiefs defense, right, and trying to stop him. And then someone in the comments said this too. I think it was Randy. Who do the Eagles have that can match up with Kelsey, right? Because Kelsey's just going to be running out into the flat 5, 6, 7 yards, catching it, and then picking up 15 yards on here and there. And then they got to put a spy on Mahomes. I think that's something the defense has to key in on. The Bills did do a good job of that in the last game. I know Mahomes had a couple plays where he was picking up some yards. And look, it's Mahomes, right? You can't stop him. But they did try to have somebody who was just eyeing Mahomes the entire game. And I think that's something the Eagles are going to have to try to do. So this is a good Eagles team. I think they have a better chance of doing it this time than they did last time because they have Saquon, because they have a stronger defense. But if they don't get it done now, then it's not going to happen for them. This is their chance because we know the next year the Niners are going to be fucking back, right? So this is their chance to make it happen because they're not getting back to this point next season.
That's what I'm saying, right? Is that the Eagles, right, on paper, they have more talent than the Chiefs do, for sure. If you look at their offensive line and their defensive line, they're a much more complete football team. But the thing that's riding with the Chiefs is that they have Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo. And those three guys are undefeated, literally undefeated in situations like this. The only time that they ever lost was to the greatest quarterback of all time. So I would be really, really shocked if the Eagles were to pull this off. I
think everyone would be shocked, right? Everyone's putting the money on the Chiefs.
Everyone's putting money on the Chiefs, but I would be shocked. Like me personally, I would be shocked if the Eagles pulled this off because of the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have played all season. Like every time you think that they're not going to win, they end up winning, right? They win 15-1. Out of those 15 victories, I think 9 were by one score, like within one score, right? Within 8 points. So, I can't bet against that. Like there's just no way that I can bet against a team like that. And they did the same shit in the playoffs. It was a pretty close game against the Texans. And we all saw what the Bills couldn't do in the fourth quarter against that team, right? They just lock in defensively. So it's insane. Like we can talk about the refs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like there's always a lot of questionable shit with them, and there is definitely a lot of favoritism when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs. People who are Chiefs fans, will say it's not, right? Go and look at the tape over the last 7 years and see how many favorable calls the Chiefs get versus their opponent in big situations.
There was a tweet put out, I think, after the AFC Championship that no quarterback has gotten more roughing the passer calls than Patrick Mahomes in the last few seasons. So look, I hope this game doesn't come down to a ref. I hope it's not a ref game, right? We don't want to see questionable calls. You don't want to see a heavy penalty game in general. This is a Super Bowl. Let these guys play. Only call the obvious calls, right? So hopefully it doesn't come down to the refs. I want to talk about this comment real quick. Mike said the Niners ain't coming back next season. The Niners will be back next season. Yes, they will. This team is set up very good position right now. They got to pay Purdy, obviously, but after that, you got Robert Saleh back. You got a number 11 pick. You got the easiest schedule in the NFL. Super Bowls in Santa Clara. This is set up for them to succeed next season. Now it's just on them, right? They got to make some big additions, obviously, with the offensive line, defensive line, addressing those things. But the Niners are definitely set up to have a strong comeback season next year. Eli, my guy, we love you, Eli, but after the Lions fumbled the bag this season, you can't really be saying much, man, about Robert Saleh and his kids lining up. The Lions, like I said about the Eagles, right? This is the Eagles' chance to get it done. This was the Lions season too. They were the number 1 seed, had the first round bye.
This is the only time they were ever going to do this.
And they got upset by the Commanders. And then you lost your offensive coordinator. You lost your defensive coordinator. So Lions kind of might have missed their mark this season too, because it only gets harder next year with the Niners coming back, the Commanders getting better. Other teams going to be in the mix. So, Eagles, Lions are definitely, they had their chances this year. Well, the Eagles at least made it to this point. So Dan said, should the Niners go after Myles Garrett? They should, but I don't know if they're going to be able to, because Myles Garrett is still in his prime. Defensive Player of the Year, right? He won that award this year. He's dominant. Indo and I were talking about this earlier today. Niners can't afford to pay 2 D linemen $30+ million, right? Nick Bosa's already making top money at his position. Myles Garrett, I think, is due for an extension very soon. I don't know if they're going to be able to pay him that kind of money, especially considering that they have to pay Purdy, right? And they're going to be paying Ayuk top money for the next 4 or 5 years as well. So it would be great if we could get Myles Garrett, but I just don't see it happening. I don't know. What do you think, Gunnar?
I think they can definitely do it. I think they can definitely pull off something like this. They have the assets, right? They have the cap space, if all things work out. Myles Garrett's cap hit for this upcoming season is very low. I would assume that he's probably looking for a long-term contract as well. He's only 29 years old. He's had double-digit sacks the last 7 seasons. He holds a record for most double-digit sack seasons in a row with Reggie White, which was arguably one of the greatest pass rushers in NFL history. And he already has 102 sacks for his career before the age of 30. Not many players have ever done that. He is literally a generational talent. He is like literally the best at his position when everything is going right with his body and everything. So I think they can definitely pull it off. But like you said, the gymnastics to do it, right? The amount of picks that they would have to give up would be pretty steep. And the fact that they would have to pay him, he would be an amazing fit in a 4-3 defense with Robert Saleh, obviously. Him and Nick Bosa on either side would be a nightmare for the division, let alone the entire conference. So I would be really interested to see if the Niners could pull this off. Obviously, we're hearing things about them trying to get T. Higgins as well. So anything is possible, man. After Saturday night, anything is possible in sports, in my opinion. But the Niners will be back. They have a last place schedule. They have an abundance of talent. They have a really good head coach who knows how to call plays when everything is right. So we'll see. We'll see. I think they can go out and swing big.
Yeah, if there's any front office that can make this happen, it's a Niners front office. They're definitely very good about moving money around and figuring out these salary cap situations, right, to make things like this happen. To Mike's question, can we get a Niners prediction for next year? Mike, this Niners schedule, I'm telling you, it is very fairly easy next season. So obviously you got your division games, right? Play the Cardinals twice, the Rams twice, the Seahawks twice. Their hardest games next season are probably the Houston Texans. Play the
Chicago.
Texans next year. We play the Bucks next year. Yeah, Chicago will be better next year. Falcons, yeah, they should be better, right? But we play the Panthers, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Cleveland Browns, the Colts, the Saints, the Giants. So I'm telling you, it's a pretty easy schedule. I think the Niners probably go 12-5 next season.
I would say 12 and 5 too.
They'll probably split with the Rams, might split with the Cardinals. Maybe they lose to the Texans, in a couple other random one-off games, but they're going to go probably 12-5, I think, next year, assuming there's no major injuries, knock on wood, to any of their key guys like a Purdy or a Fred Warner or a Bosa, So if this team is healthy, they should go 12-5 next year. Someone in the comments said Bosa's a little overrated. Look, Bosa had Randy said he agreed with it, but I think Bosa definitely had a down season. He's got to bounce back next year. You're paying a guy like that top money, and for him to only have 10, 11 sacks this year, that's not living up to your contract for sure. So Bosa's definitely got to come back next year, but this Niners team is definitely set up to make a strong comeback next year. And hopefully 1 year from now, we're talking about a Niners Super Bowl preview here in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. But Super Bowl Sunday coming up, Eagles Chiefs. Like we said, Chiefs are probably going to win. I would like to see the Eagles pull the upset and dethrone the Chiefs. But if I had to put money on the game, I would definitely put it on the Chiefs. And NBA trade deadline coming up on Thursday. We'll see if the Warriors make any moves. We'll see if the Lakers make any more moves. But for now, huge deals like we talked about. Luka to the Lakers. De'Aaron Fox is with the Spurs, and we'll see kind of what else trickles in before Thursday. Thank you guys all for tuning in. This has definitely been one of the more fun shows that we've had. Everyone who tuned in, dropping in all the comments. It's been a great show. And I think we're going to try to maybe do a show on Sunday night post Super Bowl. But if not that night, we'll definitely do something to recap the Super Bowl and talk about some more NBA trades as they come in. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the Deep Dive on YouTube and, follow Cooner and myself on Instagram, on Twitter. We're always down to talk sports, and hopefully we can all get together sometime and do this in person, because that would be a lot of fun. Dan, you're going to have to set that up for us, because you seem to be the middleman here with a lot of your boys in the comments. So thank you guys. Have a great night, and maybe you'll see Luka make his Laker debut this Saturday. See you guys.
See you guys.